All right, Vic Carucci. So you look at the Bills, they're in the 240s in terms of their salary cap figure. Salary cap's just under 225 for 2023. They're going to have to get under there. Tough decisions are coming. And what we've heard so much in recent years about new contract for Josh Allen, new contract for Stephon Diggs, Deion Dawkins comes to mind, Dawson Knox comes to mind. All of a sudden, the word restructure enters the picture in a very big way.
It does. And I think for the sake of these players, that they want to be part of something that is still ascending, or at least can get back to ascension mode, because it wasn't that, obviously, the way the 2022 season ended for them, to do what needs to be done deal-wise, restructuring-wise, to get there. I'm not suggesting there would be pay cuts for guys like Allen, for Diggs. There could be, though, for other prominent players. Deion Dawkins, for one, not playing at the level of his big contract. There would probably be a hard look at where Ed Oliver is, because he's going into a deal that's going to have 8 figures on it, and that's a big jump for him, just as Allen's makes a big jump to almost $40 million. So these are the kinds of things they're going to have to pay attention to. And then there's an Isaiah McKenzie stick around, you wonder. Tim Settle, another guy that they could probably say goodbye to. Nyheim Hines, wonderful return guy, but he's a return guy. Do you figure out, a way to either redo something with him, move on from him? Reggie Gilliam, a luxury player for a lot of teams that don't bother with fullback / tight end type. So there will be some hard moves. And then, of course, Jordan Poyer, likely, I think, to move on from him. And you've got to keep in mind that Tremaine Edmonds, the biggest piece that they have that they want to retain for the long haul, they've got to figure out a long-term deal for him.
Let's talk about that, because Poyer will come up, and a lot of people are justifiably so, attached to the type of player he is, what he's meant to the organization. Been a cornerstone addition for Sean McDermott when he came in here to help this franchise get to where it is now, 5 playoff appearances in 6 years. But we said this on Sports Talk Live, and it bears repeating here again. You think back to probably the best manipulators of the cap in this era, the New England Patriots, when they had Tom Brady in the heyday, and Bill Belichick, much to the chagrin and outright frustration and anger of a lot of Patriot fans, would let high-profile players go when they were either their contracts were up or even a year in advance of it, looking ahead and saying, you know what, not going to be able to afford you, got to go in a different direction.
It's cold-hearted stuff, and you really have to have that. I mean, easy for me to say, but you have to remove yourself from the emotional attachment, and it's not easy, because you talk about Jordan Poyer along with Micah Hyde, foundational players for Sean McDermott. They're the first 2 guys, the building blocks that he saw, and your heart doesn't change from that even as the years go on. And then you see, okay, Jordan Poyer physically at 31 breaking down more than you'd like to see. And I recall conversations with Hall of Famer Bill Polian, during the Super Bowl era and before that, you didn't have a salary cap to deal with, but he said that there were times you'd be guilty of being too emotionally attached to players, and that gets you in trouble. Bill Belichick figures that out. I think Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane have to figure that out, and have to, maybe it'll be a tear shed somewhere along the line, but it's a bigger problem if you don't fix your roster and build yourself to get right into the upper level of contention again, than feeling upset that certain guys aren't on your team anymore.
Yeah, emotion can oftentimes, like in business, equal losses.
Sure.
Want to switch gears, talk Super Bowl. You're pretty direct about the fact you think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game, that their passing attack may be too tough for the Eagles to handle. Take me inside that a little bit. Why do you think so?
Yeah, well, look, number one, what else can you say about Patrick Mahomes except he's I don't know if he's human. I mean, this guy can really do so many things, and even with the ankle injury he's dealing with, again, easy to say when it's not your own ankle, but I think he's demonstrated an ability to not only overcome that, in some ways it's enhanced his game because he's not overextending plays, and he's got that clock in his head and that ability to see things. There's eyes, I think, in the ear holes of his helmets. He just can do all this, and those sidearm throws, those flips or whatever, the magic that he does. But then the targets, obviously with Travis Kelce and the other receivers that he has, the running game that they have. I think all of that, even though the Eagles defense is strong and physical, I think there are ways they can exploit it and will. And to me, it just comes down to Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts got my vote for MVP of the league when we did that during the regular season. But honestly, matching them up in the Super Bowl, Mahomes has been there multiple times. Hurts hasn't. Coaches in this game, Andy Reid and staff, have been there multiple times. And as much as Nick Sirianni, you want to talk about a sentimental attachment to the Jamestown guy, and I'd love to see him come away with the Lombardi Trophy, I think it's going to be a real challenge for him to match up in a game like this against that experience that the Chiefs have.